Ooh.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Tiff.
And welcome to Witchy Weirdos.
Today we're going to be talking to you about some London urban legends. We have some cool stuff for you. We have vampires, we have weird cemeteries, we have something called Jack that might be a demon but might not be a demon. And we have some saucy Big Ben tea for you as well. So this should be fun.
It wouldn't be an English podcast without some tea.
That is very true.
So,
Okay.
I'm starting today with the story of Epping Forest killer pool / suicide pool, which is just something else. I have never ever heard about this before until researching for today, which is surprising, to be honest. So the Epping Forest killer pool is located in the on the border between London and Essex.
Okay.
And it is within Epping Forest, which is a forest with over 100 lakes and ponds. So
wow,
it is a big old forest, and it's not actually like you can't find anywhere what lake this lake is. So it could be any out of these 100 lakes and ponds, which is something else. So I think I've said that twice already. It's going well.
It's fun. It's fun.
So let's start with the backstory to why this pond is known as the killer pool. So 300 years ago, a young couple was said to be going for a walk when they noticed that they were being followed. And when they turned around to confront the person who was following them, they discovered it was the girl's father.
Oh.
And this girl's father disagreed with their relationship. So it is said that the father killed his daughter and dumped her body into the killer pool.
Brutal. Oh my god.
Yeah, intense, to say the least. And it is then said that the boy actually committed suicide at the same spot.
Wow, it's like a Romeo and Juliet situation.
Yeah, like total tragic love story, as a lot of ghosty tales go. So it is said that the water went black and animals started to die at the edge of the pond. And the land around it also became barren. So everything around just completely was destroyed, in a sense, from this experience. Yeah. So there isn't too much more on what, like, actual evidence on this being a killer pool or a suicide pool. However, it is thought that in 1887, there were two key incidents that highlight this. So the first was that a woman killed herself in the pond, so drowned herself. And there isn't much more details on that, just that that is the case. And then also in 1887, a servant girl called Emma Morgan and her young child actually she killed herself and killed her child around the lake.
Oh my god.
I don't know whether that's like in an attempt to no longer be a servant or if there was maltreatment, abuse, anything like that. But so they are the two that are most famous. However, it is said that it's a really common spot for people to kill themselves, which is why it's known as the suicide pool.
Wow.
It's got kind of a similar notion to the Japan suicide forests. I don't know if you've heard where they kind of lure people in, and it's thought there's like demonic entities that are telling people to commit suicide there. And there's thought to maybe like a similar sort of energy or entity that is encouraging people to kill themselves around this suicide pool.
Oh, that is terrifying.
Yeah, it is creepy. So I also found a letter from 1959 about this pool, and I've got it on my phone, so hopefully when I click onto this it will still work and you can still hear me, because otherwise it's going to be a very short podcast, because I am just going to directly read from it because it just sounds so creepy.
Oh my god,
so,
I'm ready.
The suicide pool is deep in the heart of the forest, far from any road. Birds are never heard, squirrels and deer shun its vicinity. No one fishes there, for there are no fish. It is dank, evil, and malignant, with an atmosphere unpleasant beyond description. I doubt if the sunrise ever penetrates through the surrounding trees. If it did, it would never lighten the black waters. Those who visited the pool, however, sceptical they may have been about the supernatural, always come running away after a short time, unless they end up dead in its waters, as many mysteriously do. These tragedies have happened before the Second World War. And Elliot O'Donnell from Haunted Britain, 1948, claims to have had first-hand experiences of it.
Ew.
So, yeah, quite creepy.
That sounds like something out of a novel. Like, that is terrifying.
It proper sounds like gothic novel style. Mm-hmm. I really liked that quote. So I was like, I'm just going to like directly read it and you kind of get the full impact. Mm-hmm. But like I said, there is no indication of what pool in this forest actually is the killer pool. Like, I'm sure like with the water being black and things like that, you'd identify it. But like, there's no way to protect yourself from it. If you're wandering within Epping Forest, you can't avoid this pool because it's not distinguished. So yeah, I think that's even more creepy in a sense. Like, how many unsuspected victims this pool has probably taken. Like, chilling.
You can very easily be lured that way if you don't know where you're going or what you're going towards.
Exactly. There's kind of the sense that you could stumble upon this and your life be completely altered.
Oh my God, I have chills.
Yeah, super creepy. But that is the legend of the Epping Forest killer pool.
Oh my God. And whereabouts was it again?
So it's on the border between London and Essex.
How have I never heard of
I know, me neither. I was completely like blown away by this. I've never even heard of Epping Forest. Like,
no, can we go?
Maybe this is a plan. Try and avoid the like black pool, but
yeah, we can film it or something.
Very
good,
creepy and cool.
Very creepy, very nice. I had no idea that even existed. Wow.
Nice and dark. We're starting off dark.
Mine doesn't get any lighter, this one. So the one I'm going to talk about is Spring-Heeled Jack. So Spring-Heeled Jack is an entity, I think that's the best word for it, in English folklore and of the Victorian era. And so in a lot of Victorian literature he's written about. And so the first claimed sighting of this person was in 1837. Later sightings were reported literally all over Great Britain. But they were especially prevalent in, get this, suburban London, so like an hour away from home.
Oh, love that.
The Midlands, where I am right now, and Scotland.
Oh, where I'm from.
Yeah.
We love that.
We love this. And so the last reported sighting was from Liverpool in 1904. So that actually means that this creature lurked around for 67 years.
Oh, God.
Technically, like, as in, like, that's when
the official
the span from it had been reported. Could still be lurking, who knows. So in London, the name was kind of like associated with like the boogeyman, you know, like children, well, parents would like scare their children. Like, parents would say that if they, like, children were misbehaving, Spring-Heeled Jack would like peer into their bedroom windows at
creepy
night. Yeah. So now when people talk about Spring-Heeled Jack, there's kind of like two categories people like fall into. They either fall into like the thinking like, you know, demon phantom type thing, or they fall into like a hoax, mass hysteria. Miss, isn't that a wrestler?
I have no idea.
Hysteria. Never mind. But yeah, so a lot of people think it's just like mass hysteria, and there have been cases of mass hysteria, but it's very, very interesting, some of the things that people have seen. But yeah, Spring-Heeled Jack, so he was said to perform like evil pranks, basically, which is very like, it's very funny, but it's very demonish.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so he would scare women into like these dangerous fits, severely wound them with his claws. He had literal claws.
My God.
And frighten some of them to death completely. I've got a picture of him, and I'll kind of describe his appearance a little bit. But he's tall and thin, and he's said to have disturbed facial features. Ooh. What that means, I don't even really want to know.
No, that is kind of terrifying in itself.
Exactly. And he has clawed hands, and someone said which are cold and clammy like a corpse. Ugh. And so I feel bad for whoever made that comparison.
I feel bad whoever
also
touched his hand. Like, ew.
that's true. Yeah, that's true. And yeah, for his eyes, they're said to be like red balls of fire. So for me, that's very like demon imagery.
Oh my God, definitely.
So he was seen wearing a black cloak with a helmet and a tight-fitting white garment. So he's also sometimes depicted.
Helmet.
I know. I'll get to what I interpret this as in a second.
Okay, cool.
So he's also depicted with horns and a very pointy chin in some things, which is like it's a very classical demon look you'd see in older paintings.
Very stereotypical.
Yeah, exactly. And he's been compared to the devil and also compared to ghosts because of how like just tall and pale he is, which I feel like could just be said about me. Tall and pale. But the picture I have of him, he's like, it's like if you had Batman, right? Cross Batman with a pirate, but also like Vogue. Like this picture,
oh my God.
he has like these tight-fitting, like white, I'd say like garden party trousers, right? These like long black heeled boots, very Vogue. Like the Batman helmet and the cape that has literal like those Batwing vibes. So Batman crossed with a pirate, but also Vogue.
He is like one stylish demonic entity.
Yeah, that is the vibe I got. So yeah, what can this guy do? So Spring-Heeled Jack, as you can probably guess by the name, is capable of making really high superhuman leaps. That was kind of like his thing. Yeah, he could just like jump really high.
I love that.
I know. So apparently he could jump over entire houses, walls and buildings, and that's how he would make his escape after attacking his victims. He would, I know.
The image in my head.
Hop out of there. Yeah. Also, apparently he could breathe out blue and white flames and had phosphorus breath. I didn't really understand the phosphorus breath bit because phosphorus is like you can have like white phosphorus and red phosphorus. But like phosphorus it's like 1% of a human's body weight, isn't it? And it's like,
you're saying this like I'd know. I have absolutely no idea.
it's like I think it's like in your bones and teeth and stuff.
Okay.
So I don't really know what that means for his breath. I know it's like it's a really highly reactive element. Like you can't just find it like naturally like a free element in the earth or anything.
Does that mean he's like eating bones? Like,
I don't know. I really don't. But either way, this bitch can, spout fire. So I'm I'm not going to step to him. So some sightings of Spring-Heeled Jack. One of the most famous reports was by Mary Stevens, a servant girl who was working in Clapham Common. She was walking alone one night to get home, and she claims that a man jumped out of a dark alley, grabbed her with like a really tight grip, kissed her, and
oh my God.
And ripped her clothes off. And she managed to escape, but then when others tried to help her find the attacker, no one could be found. And I was reading that and I was like, okay, at this point it just sounds like a human predator. Like, it just sounds like
definitely. It sounds Jack the Ripper-y, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. This predates Jack the Ripper, but you're completely right, it does. And then the day after that incident, a man was described near her house, and he was seen jumping out the way of a carriage, passing by that driver off the road, and it just like the driver had to like swerve off and like really hurt himself, and then the driver saw this person jump over a 9-foot wall.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I mean, he could have just low-key been like a high jump champion. Yeah. But I think he's probably a demon.
I don't think so. It's just making me think of that meme with the like lion jumping high in the air, and it's like, no. You mean lions can like jump distances off, not can jump up as high off? All I can think of is that meme right now.
I love it. You've ruined the image in my head.
That's what's going on in my head right now. He's not creepy. He's like a giant lion jumping up.
I'm so going to have to make that comparison in images. So also the Times covered a story about Spring-Heeled Jack. And it was because there were two girls, Lucy Scales and Jane Aslop, something. Interesting surname. They were attacked. They were attacked in 1838. And one of them answered the door to a man claiming to be a police officer. So he asked her for a candle, and then she retrieved it for him. And then at that point, he threw off his cloak. And and it was said that he revealed a hideous form with clothing that resembled oil skin.
Oh.
Which just feels wrong. Like, just to think about it makes my skin crawl.
It must be so slimy.
Yeah. And then apparently he tore off her clothes with the claws. It's his signature move, apparently. And then she claimed they were made of like a metallic substance. And then she ran for safety. But he actually managed to tear at her neck and arms, and she was eventually saved by her sister, and the creature ran away. And that's what the Times covered on it.
Oh, that's so creepy.
Yeah, and then like a few weeks later, it was Lucy, the other girl, so not the girl that got initially attacked. Lucy was walking through Green Dragon Alley, and she saw a person standing in the passageway carrying a bullseye lantern. And that person looked similar to the one... Well, that lantern looked similar to the one that the police officer used. But he spit blue flames into her face.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And she seized into, like, violent fits. And she was in, like, complete hysteria, and it lasted for hours. So I don't even know if it was, like, the flames damaged her physically. I think it was more of, like, madness personified.
Yeah.
Which is very, very interesting. There are also some accounts of him dressed in furs to appear like a bear, which is really weird, but there's a really famous case where he just, like, growled at a gardener, climbed the garden wall, and then chased the gardener on all fours until he just decided to leave.
Random.
It was, like, it's such, like, a prankster thing.
Yeah.
It's such, like, you can imagine, like, a really malicious demon just, like, trying to have a laugh.
Yeah,
like,
more than anything.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, he is attacking people, but it sounds a lot more like he's doing stuff for kind of like a reputation.
Yeah, it's evil pranks.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then what's really interesting is, so the more the fame of Spring-Heeled Jack grew, the less frequently there were reports about him. So I think he was trying to, like, keep a bit of a low profile.
Jinx!
Yeah. Love it. And that was until 1843. So that was, like, quite a few years later. Well, not quite a few, maybe like 7 years. And that was when, like, a whole new wave of sightings swept the country. And that was when attacks on carriage drivers became a lot more common as well. And one of the most notable came in August of 1877 from a group of soldiers in Aldershot Barracks. And basically a sentry noticed a strange figure, like, just, like, in the darkness. And it ended up slapping him in the face. like this demon just slapped this sentry in the face.
Oh, my God.
And then when a guard shot at the figure, there was no visible effect. Like, nothing happened. And then the figure just disappeared into the darkness again with its long leaps. With its lion leaps.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the same year, this Jack appeared in Newport in Lincolnshire, in a sheepskin. And a mob chased him and shot at him with no effect again.
So he's quite indestructible.
Yeah, it seems like it. And he sort of I don't know if it's that he's shape-shifting or that... Well, it's not. It's kind of like he's just, like, grotesquely grabbing skins of animals. And, yeah, that's an image I don't want to get too into. Interestingly, one person was arrested and tried at Lambeth Street Court because he claimed he was Spring-Heeled Jack. And the only reason he wasn't convicted was because he admitted to not being able to spit fire.
I wonder what, like, his leaping level was. Like, surely that's the thing you test here. You're like, right, jump over that 9-foot wall then. Watch as he, like, jumps into the wall.
That is so funny. Yeah, I don't know what the trial would have been like. And then in 1847, an investigation in Devon led to a man named Captain Finch getting arrested. But he was actually convicted of assaulting 2 women while wearing a skin coat. And it was like bull's hide. And a skull cap and horns and a mask. So people don't necessarily actually think he is Spring-Heeled Jack. They think he's like a copycat. Yeah. But yeah, those are 2 cases of, like, kind of accused people, like, trying to find the person that was responsible for this, but actually, like, it's never been found.
He's still very mysterious.
Exactly, yeah. And there are a few theories on him in general. So yeah, like I said, no one's ever been caught or identified as Spring-Heeled Jack, and that leaves some people thinking that he was a man with a bunch of copycats following in his footsteps, following just like decades later in different places, just copying him, which is a logical theory. And then they believe that like the details about the leaping and the fire breathing and stuff is just like gossip and superstition and like sensationalist news and stuff.
And when you're which is like trauma, you like envision stuff sometimes, don't you? Like your body trying to cope. So maybe that is just part of it.
Exactly, and that's why some people rope this all into like a mass hysteria type thing. However, other people believe that he was a paranormal creature, and they consider him an extraterrestrial identity with a typically non-human appearance. So they believe that it was like superhuman jumping abilities because he lived on a high gravity world. So that was like a whole thing. Like they thought he was an alien.
Oh, that's interesting.
As opposed to like a ghost. Yeah, or
that would make sense. Kind of like the strange movements that he has.
I agree. For me, I'm like, okay, that makes sense because of the movements, but it doesn't necessarily make sense to me because of like the demon appearance and like the kind of like playful like evilness of it.
I do quite like the idea of an alien rocking up and like trying to understand how to communicate with humans and being like, damn it, my slapping didn't work.
What? I wasn't supposed to rip her clothes off.
I thought that was just what humans did. Like maybe he's just a very misunderstood alien from the Victorian era.
Maybe. That is true. Maybe. Well, there's another theory, and this is like kind of along the devil lines. They believe that he was a demon summoned to the world from practitioners of the occult, and literally believe that he was brought here to just cause trouble, which, you know, he did.
He succeeded.
So, you know, mission accomplished, but he, in general, by a lot of people, is considered like a phantom attacker. Like, I think it's called like the Mad Gasser of Mattoon or something, which is the name given to a person or people believed to be responsible for like, there was a series of apparent gas attacks like in Illinois, and like there was no like evidence for any of it happening, and it was literally like a massive case of mass hysteria. Mass hysteria
every time.
Mass hysteria. But people also believed he could be a phantom attacker, so it's kind of along those same lines. And so phantom attackers, they appear to be human but have like extraordinary abilities and are never caught by the police. And their attacks are commonly witnessed by several people, but the creature's existence itself can never be confirmed. It's like a whole category of different types of weird attacks. Yeah, definitely something we should revisit sometime.
That sounds so spooky.
But yeah, that is everything I have on Spring-Heeled Jack, the potential demon, potential person, potential dragon. Who knows? Weird though.
He like sounds so creepy, but kind of cool as well. I slightly think he's brilliant.
I know. I think it's like the Batman Pirate Vogue.
Yeah.
Vibe.
Springing lion,
like he. The picture I have, he weirdly like he looks more like a vampire than he does a demon. Like that's kind of like the vibe I get. And in some of the older pictures, like I said, with like the pointed chin and stuff, it does look very like vampire.
Yeah, those kind of characteristics.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Well, that's a very good natural segue onto another London vampire.
Oh!
So, the Highgate Cemetery vampire. And this is quite like a famous case, so I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it before. But it's so cool. The only reason I have is because I watch a lot of like paranormal investigations on YouTube. And one of my favourite people to watch is Amy's Crypt, and they went to Highgate Cemetery. And that's like the thing that made me think of this one in the first place.
I love that.
Highgate Cemetery is a cemetery in central London. It's thought to be quite beautiful, actually. Like it's quite foresty. Like it's not like a forest, but there's lots of trees, lots of nature. And London can be really surprising for stuff like that a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So this vampire was originally also known as the Coventry Street vampire. Just because of the location where this kind of all took place. So I'm going to say now that both my information for today was from londonurbanlegends.wordpress.co.uk. Give him the credit. So this vampire originally started in 1922, and this was around a series of alleged vampire attacks. So in 1922, there were 3 victims who were brought to Charing Cross Hospital because they all had stab marks on their necks, which looked, I presume, vampire-y, but it was also described as like a tube entrance, which grosses me out. And I like...
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I'd rather they just said, like, vampire marks, to be honest.
Gross.
Like, just, yeah, creepy. But obviously, like, that's quite a very specific thing to happen to 3 people, and for them all to have to be hospitalised because of it. So, they said that there was an invisible force which had leapt from the shadows and bit them, which is how they had got these bite marks, essentially. So I think that's kind of what starts to bring in the image of a vampire more than anything. The idea of the shadows, the idea of it being a bite, not like an attack with a weapon. And so from here, they decided the natural course of action to take was to hire a vampire hunter, which I just think, like,
love it.
It's quite entertaining that they did that straight away.
Funny, yeah.
So straight into vampire hunters, like you do. Trying to make sure I get this all in the right order. So they hired this vampire hunter. I presume nothing really came of it. There's not much discussed about this initial vampire hunter. However, in 1968, this all kind of came back into play again. And basically what happened was on Halloween in 1968, a grave in the cemetery had been uncovered and the coffin had been opened. There were flowers arranged in a circle around the coffin. The body had been disturbed and had been struck through the chest with an iron stake. So a lot of images of kind of vampire stuff. I mean, to this sounds a lot less like an active vampire to me. This sounds very much like someone with a dark mind playing a joke or some sort of ritual, that kind of thing. Yeah. So this then moved into 1970. So all of this stuff kind of goes on. There's random sightings, things reported like throughout this time, but nothing so concrete. It's just kind of like
1970.
Yeah, so like this isn't all that long ago. This is quite a recent thing. If you think So on the 6th of February, David Farrant, I hope I'm saying that right, produced a letter in a newspaper. I think it was like the Highgate local newspaper or something along that lines. And said that on several occasions he had seen a grey figure within the cemetery or the local area, which he considered to be supernatural. So this kind of brought, once again, the idea of a supernatural being in the cemetery being brought back into the minds of the public. So around the same time, another vampire hunter was brought into the kind of mix. And this vampire hunter was known as Sean Manchester. So Sean Manchester stated that he believed that the entity that was in Highgate Cemetery was the king vampire of the undead. Yeah, big accusation to make there.
Wow.
So he thought that a medieval nobleman from Romania was a practitioner of black magic. And he said that he believed that this king vampire of the undead was brought to the UK in the 18th century and was supposed to be buried on the site that is now Highgate Cemetery. But it's unclear how, but somehow this body was awoken. Whether that was in the 18th century, whether that is with the creation of the cemetery, I don't know. But I think that's quite interesting that maybe there was something trapped there that was then aggravated by trying to set up this cemetery.
That happens though, like when people try to like remodel their places and stuff.
It's thought that you kind of upset energy quite easily. So this kind of, there was a lot of drama between Sean Manchester and what's his name? David Farran. There was a lot of like controversy, people not believing that this was one thing or the other. Like, there's just a lot of uncertainty around this. But the final kind of official thing that came into place around the Highgate vampire was on Friday the 13th of March 1970. So yeah, Friday I know, funny how these dates fall on Halloween and Friday the 13th, right?
Yeah.
So on Friday the 13th of March, they organised a mass vampire hunt of Highgate Cemetery. And literally that was all that was said, so I presume no vampires were found.
What? I need more tea. Oh my god.
This is still like a really investigated place. It's thought to be quite haunted. Obviously, like, cemeteries in themselves are thought to be quite haunted. And of course, because the UK is such an old country, there is a good chance that some of the bodies there are very old. So that holds a lot behind it. But people still investigate this. You can do ghost tours. People try and contact the spirit that is in Highgate. But in terms of official kind of documentation, that is it for the Highgate vampire.
Oh my god.
Honestly, it looks so creepy and cool. And it really is quite beautiful. Like, I think it's quite like a nice place. But yeah, like, creepy.
Wow. Oh, it's so
And there's just like a lot said of people being like spooky figures, or like, I think there was quite a lot of like dead animals like foxes and stuff turning up unexplainably.
Wow.
So it's that kind of nature in a sense.
Yeah. And it is a cemetery after all. So it's inherently creepy. Oh my god. Well, that is heavy. That's been heavy. I think luckily we've got something quite light. Well, yeah, it's light. It's kind of funny. Some interesting stuff about Big Ben to lighten us up a bit.
Finish off on a high note.
Yeah, definitely. So, Big Ben, there's a whole theory around what happens and why this happens, but there have been a few times when Big Ben has striked 13 times. Yeah, really, really weird. That, like, obviously that immediately would point to like a fault in the clock, but it's striking 13 is said to be pertinent for like all manner of bad
definitely.
luck. Yeah, because it's 13 as well. So it's like bad luck, strangeness, and evil, and it's even just like a random clock doing that. There's kind of like been a motif in like literature as well. Like I think like George Orwell and Tom Hardy, they've written about clocks striking 13 and that being significant. Yeah, so it's just kind of like an understood vibe that like if a clock is striking 13, it's like it's something.
There's definitely
bad juju. Bad juju, yeah. And one of the big things that surround this is some stuff about the royal family. So there's a whole theory that believes that when Big Ben strikes 13, it's bringing some type of meaningful news or warning to the royal family. Yeah, and there've been a few. I think like so I've got 3 cases where this has kind of happened. The first one was reported in the Derbyshire Courier. Following on Saturday the 6th of February on 1892. I swear
6th of February was one of the dates that I've just mentioned. It was the 6th of February. Been, yeah. How weird.
No way. Oh my god, creepy. So I'm going to try and just read exactly what the article said, or what the report said. And so it said, a most curious coincidence with regard to the death of the late Duke of Clarence has come under notice. It is as follows. There is, it seems, a superstition that when Big Ben, the clock of Westminster, strikes irregularly at midnight, evil will befall the royal house within 3 months. At 12 o'clock on the night of November the 14th, the members of the political club within a stone's throw of the Houses of Parliament were astonished to hear that the quarter chimes sounding simultaneously within the hour strikes, and note that Big Ben struck 13 times. Oh! Yeah. So the event was commented on, and the day being like a critical one was like, it was critical because there was like the illness of Prince George. And yeah, apparently his name was happily or incorrectly associated with the evil omen or something. I don't really know what that means. But 2 months later, to the very day, his older brother died. So, yeah, it was like striking like warnings that someone was going to die within 3 months, or something bad was going to happen. And then in 1906, on Friday the 24th of August, the Luton Times and Advertiser posted like a completely different story. And there was a superstition that when Big Ben strikes 13 at midnight, a death may be expected in the royal family, like immediately. And it's remembered that the clock certainly struck 13 at midnight within a few days of Queen Victoria's death.
That's creepy.
So, yeah, weird. And the last one that I found was from the Sunday Post, and it was in 1926. And this one said, when Big Ben fails without just reason, an event of the utmost importance is about to happen. Certainly, all the experts who tried to find the cause of Big Ben's particular conduct failed and described the incident as being due to outside inference. Or interference, not inference. I can't read. The happy event to the Duke and Duchess occurred a few hours later. So despite the lack of logic in the like all of this, people were convinced that the great historical events are like bound up with the future of the royal baby.
Interesting.
And many of them declare that they can trace all big events in the royal history to idiosyncrasies in the clock.
My god, that's such a weird
really
thing
weird.
to like study, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, so I'm sure like if we did some more research on it, we'll be able to like map them all up. But yeah, there's a whole big thing about when it strikes 13.
I just don't understand how people notice. Like, I would not be paying enough attention to notice that it had gone off 13 times.
No, I'd just be like,
do you think there's a person who tracks it? Like, whose job is to be like, okay, it only went off 3 times. It's good. We're all good.
Probably. Honestly, you're probably right. 'Cause it's such a massive landmark, but I mean, it's closed until like 2021 now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going still doing its thing. It's got that giant like thing over it at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's the royal family one. The last theory I've got about it is hilarious in my opinion. And it's the lion theory. So legend has it that if Big Ben strikes 13 times, the lions at the bottom of Nelson's column on Trafalgar Square will come to life, defending England against any and all possible attacks on the country. Yeah, and bearing in mind, so each of those like bronze lions are like 20 feet long and over 11 feet tall. So if this were to happen, you can imagine
it actually freaks me out quite substantially.
Like, imagine those massive lions just come to life and, like, defending England. I love the idea of it. Like, I think it's so funny. But it also low-key reminds me of that Ghostbusters.
I was going to say, it reminds me of Harry Potter when they call down all the statues off Hogwarts.
Oh, yes. I love that scene. That scene is epic.
Wiggies. Let's just compare this to whatever films we've been watching recently.
Quarantine be like that. But yeah, that's what I have on Big Ben. So it was a little bit lighter. It's very interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I just think it's really funny, like the whole royal family.
I wonder if it's done it in like our lifetime.
Do you know what? I'm going to have a look. Not right intrigued. Now, but I'll message you. I'll let you know. But yeah, that is the end of
we were very concise today. I think we're getting the hang of this.
Yeah. I like it. I kind of just want to fill it out more as well, though.
So true.
This is fun.
So true.
But yeah,
and
that is
we
all.
Will be back again soon with more creepy stories for you.
So excited.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.